Hey everybody, welcome to Saving Vegas. And today, well, we're going to be saving some Vegas. This would be, I guess, part 2 of my Cerwin Vega 215p videos. Quite obviously, as you can see, we need some new foams on these guys. Well, these are literally falling apart. Like, I mean, this is... Normally I'm kind of prying these off. That just kind of comes off. I ordered foam. It came in, so I'm gonna get this new foam put on here. Like so. First things first, I'll get this taken out. Okay, so first thing when you guys are doing this, usually I get a bar like this and I get it, just kind of work it underneath the gasket all the way around. But seeing as how they are that rough, it just kind of came off. So nothing to do there. I am going to be shimming these. I've got my shims right here. So I will be using that. So I am going to take the original dust cap off, and I'll show you guys a nice, easy way to do that without damaging anything. And at the same time, I'm going to start scraping the rest of this away. I usually do it dry first. I usually take a knife here and just kind of go along and like so. Bone's pretty stiff, I'm not really too worried. Just a little bit of pressure on it to kind of get the majority of it anyways. Just like that. Remember, you don't have to press too hard. Just kind of run it along there with a little bit of pressure on it. And I like to come around and kind of get the rest of this. Pretty sticky on there. That might be easier when I get something on it to soak it up. But anyways, just trying to get the bulk of it. I like to wear gloves while I'm doing this. This stuff can get pretty gross and pretty sticky. Now, like I said, this is messy. But I'm going to do the same thing here. I'll try to get the bulk of this stuff with my knife. So I'm not worried about getting all of it. I just want to get the majority of it. Like, look how it crumbles apart. Anyway, I am going to be removing the dust cap to shim it while I put the new foam on, but I want to do that last because I don't want anything getting inside. So we're going to leave that to the last step. So you can use, and I have used it before, alcohol for the foams on these. It works pretty good with most of the woofers I've refoamed. Especially the older they are, it works the better. But I've had it, I found using a lacquer thinner actually works a lot better. And it's a lot quicker too. So that's what I'm going to be using on this one. And I like to use just one of my cheap paint brushes here. One of the paint brushes I use for spraying glue usually on the foams. Just dip it in there And I'm gonna spread it on the basket here, go all the way around. So I'm going to do the same thing all around the edge of the cone. Now on this particular woofer, this is a 15.3W, it does have a gluing flange on it. So the cone is angled up like this and then it's flat all the way here. So I kind of like these because that gives you a nice line. You know where that foam is supposed to go back onto. But there's not a whole lot there to glue to. But I still use the same process. I do the same thing for that as I do on the basket. And I'm just gonna soak that stuff. There we go. So, just going to come along. It's just the top part. Grab a rag here. Just the top part of my blade is all I'm doing. Running it along there. And you can see that old foam is coming off. And just a red goop. That's why I said, that's why I like to wear gloves, because get it all over your hands. I don't know. It saves me having to wash my hands. Yeah, these things are, I didn't see this before. A little bit of a crease and stuff in there. I can tell you one thing for sure. I'm pretty positive there's going to be, I'll probably do a video of a recone on these sometime in the future. It really is too bad because everybody likes the old cones, the old original cones. Alright, so the rest of this should come off pretty easily now too. With a rag, usually you can get the majority of it. See, I'm just rubbing it back and forth now. And it takes the majority of it right off. Get my air hose and I will blow all that out and blow everything out underneath. Like I said, get everything cleaned up off of here so when I do remove the dust cap that I'm not getting anything inside. This kind of take a rough fit and check to, you can even, it's a good way to do it, is flip it upside down. And then you can kind of see, it's not going to go all the way to the outside anyway, so I'm not too worried about that. I still want to clean some of it off. So when I will be reinstalling the original gasket. I think I might hit it with a little bit of paint. Gonna try to find a flat black paint just to kind of hit this with. It's pretty faded. Trying to make it look nice and new. So yeah. Alright, well I'm gonna go clean this up with the compressed air. And then we'll get to removing that dust cap. Okay, now, dust cap removal. There's a few different ways to do this. You can just come in and cut along here. Just cut around the edge. You could even use the part that is actually glued to the cone. You can leave that on there and then glue the new one onto that. Nobody's ever gonna know the difference. But I like to actually take it right off. I'm not overly worried about possibly taking a little bit of the paper off on here on the cone. So for that reason, I'm going to try doing it that way. I'm going to use the lacquer thinner and I'm going to soak it around here. And then, like I said, there we go. I am using we'll be using the exact same size. We're just gonna have the new one will have a Cerwin Vega logo on it. Not a big deal. But I'll show you guys how I do this. It's nothing special. Just like to come in with my brush, with the lacquer thinner, and just coat it around the outside. So it's gonna, the lacquer thinner, it's gonna soak through the felt dust cap, and it's gonna start eating away at that glue. And I should be able to peel it up nicely without damaging anything. Clean, the guy could probably even reuse the dust cap, I suppose, but I've got a lot on hand, so I'm not too worried about that. There. So I'm going to let that sit for a bit. Might even hit it one more time just to make sure. And then once that's done, we can start trying to peel it up. Alright, so I got the lacquer thinner on all around where the dust cap is glued on. I let it sit for a few minutes. Now all I'm going to do is kind of press on here and just kind of try to pull back and see if it comes up. And it is. See if you guys can see that, how nicely it just starts coming off. Just like so. A little bit of the paper coming off there, that's not even bad. Not even bad at all. Oh, there it might be. So here you can see some of the glue on the outside, so I might have to just run the knife in here a little bit. Just like so. Oh. Oh. No, ripped it a little bit there. There. I'm going to rub a little bit more of that on. I'm just going to try to get more of the little bit of the glue left on there. Now that the cap is off. It's pretty crazy when you can see the original color. See, it's actually taken most of the glue off. It's taken a little bit of the fibers with it too, but nothing too serious. Not like it's going to weaken it by any means. All right. So, cap's off. Take a look inside. It looks really good. I like it. And you soaked that comb pretty good. So I'm just going to take a heat gun and just dry up some of that lacquer thinner. Okay, so now I'm going to shim it. Always clean these really well. Gets dusty and dirty in the shop more often than not. And you do not want to get anything inside here. So I like to use them. Let's stick this one down there. I've got these cut into 4. And I know from previous ones I've done, You don't want ever to overlap. You always want that same thickness all the way around. The idea is to get it perfectly spaced all the way around. That way, while you're gluing everything on, it stays right where it needs to be. I usually don't do this, but on these, I figured I'd give it a shot. Plus I did want to put the newer dust cap on. Like I said, you want to make sure these are not ever going to overlap each other. You get them in. There. Now it should be nice and tight. I should be able to lift up the cone and it should stay in place, and that's right where I want it. And I always start by setting on there upside down like so. That way I can spin it nice as I glue it. Now when it comes to glue, I can't stress the importance of using the proper stuff, and it's not hard to find. I ordered this kit from Simply Speakers, and they supply their own glue with the kits. It's an option, so I just got some of their Simply Speakers. It's a repair adhesive. It says on here it's good for attaching surrounds to paper, poly, metal, and composite cones, spiders to frames, surrounds to basket, and dust caps to cones. So I pretty much use this for anything, because I find after you use this, if you ever have to make any repairs, it's not hard to remove this glue and not damage anything. A little bit of lacquer thinner, or even just some heat. I've used a heat gun before, and I've been able to kind of separate it without damaging anything. It dries clear and flexible. You don't want anything that's going to be hard. Don't want it to dry hard. But like I said, I haven't always used this stuff. Actually, I think I just threw it away. I can't remember the brand of it. It was an automotive grade. But as long as you guys, as it goes on, it says it goes on clear and flexible, it's good. I've used it quite a bit. I do like Simply Speakers glue that they have, just because it always comes gooping out. I like the end that they put on here. I like this nice narrow tip at the end. The other ones, generally you get they're shorter and wider, harder to get in. So I usually use that for kind of just going from the foam to the basket, because it was easier to get it in there. But always did use this for the application of the surround to the cone itself. It's easier to be a little more precise with it. Alright, so we're just going to put a nice bead on all the way around. Try not to get too carried away. Now, the first couple of these Refoam jobs that I ever did, I did not use enough glue. I was being too worried about making a mess of the cone that I actually didn't even use enough glue. And it was fine for a while until I started pushing my speakers pretty hard, and then I heard a flapping, air seeping type noise, and it was starting to separate from the cone, and it just did not have enough glue on it. That's also the importance too, after you do this, is to take that brush and evenly coat that section of the foam with the glue, so that the whole surface of the foam is actually going to be glued right to the cone. So you just come along, spread it out. I always kind of sweep towards the outside, so any excess glue is going to go to the inside of the foam and not to the cone and get all over that. Now you do have a fair bit of time with this stuff. You don't have to be super fast. If you guys are doing this and never done it before, just take your time, guys. This is not hard to do. Now we got the glue nice and evenly spread out all the way around. This is where I'm gonna got my shims in there. I'm gonna push up so that cone stays up nice and tight. And then just start nice and slow. So I'm gonna start on this edge, just slowly drop it into place, trying not to let it overhang on that cone so it doesn't make a mess. Just like so. And like I said earlier, these woofers that are designed like this are nice. You have the angle of your cone coming up, and then it's actually a flat surface where it glues to. So it's really easy to get it right where you want it. So after the glue starts setting a little bit, it's gonna be a lot thicker. It's not gonna be as runny. So then you'll be able to tell just by how easy it does or does not move around as you work around the cone. And then once you're at that point, that's when you can start applying some more pressure to it, and you don't risk the glue come squeezing out on the sides. All right, so that's glued down pretty good. I'm just gonna kind of go around, work my thumb around it, push down nice and tight. It's starting to grab already, so that's good. I think it says about an hour this stuff is set and ready to use. I usually wait a little more than that just to be cautious. I will run them and make sure everything sounds good, but I won't really start pushing them until they've sat for a few hours at least, or overnight even. All right, so you can start gluing around the basket right away. I'm gonna wait, give it a few minutes. I'm gonna let that glue set up nice and tight. I don't want it to move on the cone at all. And yeah, give it a few minutes. All right, it's been a few minutes now. The foam is holding really nice to the cone, and so I don't have to worry about that moving as I glue it to the basket. So I usually just, with the cone up like this, it's nice. Gives me some room to get in here with the glue. Just start running a nice thick bead all the way around. And there we go. And you guys can see, got the glue ran all the way around the basket. And just like with the cone, I like to come in with a brush and just kind of spread it out real nice. Now what I like to do, just start pressing the cone down right until that edge pretty much starts catching there. Now we don't have any movement in the cone. And just kind of little bit by little bit. These foams are kind of have a funny angle to them, but just gonna press down on it a few spots. So at this point, when it starts holding like this, I like to take the shims out and then just kind of move the cone in and out. Because if you have to make any adjustments in this, now's the time before it sets up too much. But at the same time, you want it set up enough where it's going to hold, so you know where it is sitting at the moment is going to be good enough. And I'll start pulling the shims out. And then yeah, I just like to, just like that. Perfect. No rub. Nice and quiet. Just what I wanted. That is going to be a success. Work my way around a little bit more, make sure it's all down. Double check. You shouldn't hear any scraping coming from in there. It should be nice and quiet. Perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. Now what I usually do, never hurts. I'll take this and I don't have too much glue on the outside. It might stick on there a little bit, but that's not a big deal. I like to set this on here. If the gasket is taller than the foam, and then I like to get some weight on it, or even just put it upside down and use the weight of the speaker itself, which is what I'm going to do, and I'll let it sit like that for a bit. Just want to make sure that the gasket stays where you want it. Okay, now gasket. I do want to hit this with some black paint. Whether you're painting it or not, I have to get the rest of this foam off of here. Now I always just take my knife. This I actually take the sharp part of the blade, and I'll just run it along here. And again, you're not going to get all of it, but get a fair bit. You don't want to cut into it. Just want to get pieces like that off. The bulk of it anyways. There. I got the bulk of that off. Now over to the side. And again, I'm just going to take my paintbrush, dip it in, and just kind of go all the way around. Soak it up. Now I'll grab my rag and just start rubbing it off. There. Good enough. All right. Well, I'm going to take this outside and give it a couple shots of spray paint. Just a black paint I'm going to use just to make it look a little newer. It's in pretty good shape. It's not ripped or torn anywhere, so should be just fine. The woofer's ready, so it's been long enough. I'm gonna start getting this sucker back into the cabinet. So now that the glue, I've given it, it's been a little more than an hour now to set up, ready to start putting this back in. So you notice I haven't put the dust cap on yet. I am going to put that on after it's in the cabinet, and that way I know I can get it as straight as possible. So get these wired up. There. Okay. Drop this sucker back in. There we go. All right, there we go. The woofer is now installed. Now, usually this is when I plug it in, test it out. I'm confident this is gonna work. I know there's no rub whatsoever. I know all's good. All right, so this, same thing as your foam. There's a nice layer on there. Some of it is going to soak into that felt a bit. Just get a nice layer on it. There. I'm going to use that brush. I am just going to give it a quick spread. And there we go. Now I'm just going to eyeball this. I can tell exactly where this goes because of the original color, where it wasn't able to fade behind the dust cap. So that's going to make this fairly simple. So I usually kind of start with one edge right where it needs to be. I'm just kind of eyeballing for straightness. And then let it fall into place. So that's pretty good. Push it down a little bit. That looks pretty good. You just want a little bit of weight on there while the glue sets. I like to use just a big 1.5-inch socket. It's got some good weight to it. And I just like to set it on top. But I'll leave it sit like that for 15-20 minutes. It's more than enough. But while that's happening, I'm going to check on my gasket, see if it is dry, and then we'll glue that sucker in. All right, so I went ahead and got the glue on here. Nothing special, same thing. Just run a bead all the way around, spread it out with a paintbrush a little bit, line it up, and stick her down. Nice and easy. Basically, I'm just lining it up to the screws that are already in it. Just like so. Perfect. All right, now it's been sitting long enough. Everything's dried up really good. Take this off. Gasket's had time for the glue to set, so that's all good. Now there's really nothing left but hook the sucker up and see what it sounds like. I have yet to hear these, so excited.